came across a cop car in the middle of the road. I'm not sure if he had his lights on or not, or if he was trying to, like, if he was in incognito mode trying to catch somebody, but apparently there was a guy who had killed someone, who was, on the run or whatever. Somebody had called 911. It just recently happened, or maybe he was in the area or whatever. And he was, on the back dirt road, with like, that nobody really ever drives on. It was after dark, so if it was winter time, it was at least, probably, 6, 7 o'clock. If it was summertime, it was, 10 o'clock or so, whatever. Had his gun drawn, and asked him questions, blah, blah, blah. I'm just going home, so that was sort of an interesting thing. If you were the guy who was trying to get away, boy, that'd be a bad deal. Not that I'm vouching for, a murderer, but, you're, like I said, the back dirt roads, you're thinking, I just need to get away. I'll just stay on the back roads until I get, you know what I mean? You're probably thinking, well, I kind of want to, stay on the back roads, shit, sure enough, there's a cop, but I'm suspecting it probably just happened, some sort of domestic disturbance that went bad wrong, and, he wasn't too far out, you know what I mean? So, because that's what I would do if I was, on the run. Now, obviously, you can't exactly, if you're using a smartphone, it has to be like in somebody else's name that's like completely random. It has to be stolen. It can't be connected to you in any way, friend or family, because they track that shit. But you could just sort of gradually, old school, keep trying to, push in the direction that you're trying to go, literally just staying on, the secondary roads and dirt roads and shit like that. But, if you just did something, bad, wrong, serious, like murdered somebody, they're gonna, set up a drag net or whatever it's called, and you're probably not, they're gonna find you. It might take some time. I mean, you hop on a train, they're gonna stop that train. I've seen that before, trains stopped with officers, looking around, they're gonna find you. They know what's up. Where's he gonna go? Is he gonna go through this pass? Is he gonna? What's the path of least resistance? Is he gonna follow the river? They're gonna find your ass unless you're, like a really, special forces / survival specialist type guy who, number one, knows how to move without being seen. And mind you, trackers, dogs, people on horseback and ATVs. I mean, eventually they're going to get you. I mean, you got to be one hell of a dude, and like I said, eventually they're probably going to get you anyway. Unless you can, find some sort of, plastic surgeon and change your identity and just all this stupid shit that you would see like in a movie. But if you're on the run, let's say you escaped from prison or you just committed some heinous crime, it doesn't matter, how badass you are, and you can live off the land and sleep in trees and live amongst the wildlife. They're going to get you eventually. So, and if you're just some schmuck, in a car, trying to take the back roads, they're going to get you very quick. If you're, John Rambo, they'll get you within probably a week. I'm just throwing that out there, I don't know. But if you're, Schmuckum McGee, they're probably going to get you within 48 hours. If you're just trying to hide out, driving the back roads, eating gas station food, and shit like that, I mean, you're going to run out of money, you're going to run out of ideas, you're going to run out of shit. So, but, anyway, so that was that. One time, another time, he was driving home, I think, from somewhere, on the back road, and there was a bunch of reporters and flashing lights and whatnot, And apparently, unfortunately, a small plane had crashed in a field out here in, the sticks, middle of nowhere, really. And somehow, the news crew got a hold of it, and it was on the news. And my dad was on the news, TV. He's been on TV a few times, just for different stuff, because of his business and shit like that, regulations that have changed and whatnot. But he's been in the newspaper. He's been at events and stuff. I've actually looked him up. I've seen him. I've heard his stuff. Little speeches and stuff on YouTube. And he's a member of a panel. That. I don't know. Everybody helps everybody else solve problems. And he used to teach classes, a class on ethics at some sort of college, and then the bug hit and they stopped doing that, and I didn't know that, and I guess, it's I didn't know that. He's kind of well, you never asked, kind of well, okay, but, but anyway, he went to work on Monday, and, the front guys were like, how's your weekend? He's like, fine, and my dad's the kind of guy, on the weekend, you'll see him out there, in overalls and a straw hat, just putzing around. And, they were like, nothing exciting happened, like a plane crash in your backyard or anything. And he was like, oh, yeah. So that was that. But like I said, unfortunately, those people did die. So, I sit here and talk about it lightheartedly and jokingly, but that was a tragic event for, several people. Then, let's see, what was another thing? My dad and I were driving, again, on the back roads after dark somewhere. I think we were going from my folks' house to my grandma's house. And we saw a comet that was so big, it lit up the whole sky. You could see the surrounding area. And it was green. It had a green tail behind it. And it disappeared behind the horizon, and we were both like, wow. I think we may have just witnessed the end of the world. Expect a, firewall to come, hurling towards us, over the horizon any minute now. I think we just experienced, a dinosaur killer or something. But, it was cool. But, so that's that. Oh, what else? There's a thing, I guess there's a John Elway thing on Netflix. I'm going to watch that. He was the quarterback for the Denver Broncos, kind of during the 80s and 90s. I remember watching him, as a kid, whatnot, teenager. Back when they had the old original uniforms, it was orange with white lettering for home, white with blue lettering for away. They had the blue helmets with the orange D. With the the horse in it, donkey. Denver Donkeys. Denver Broncos. But anyway, my aunt used to work at a boot store, and John Elway came in to buy some boots. She met John Elway. And apparently he's a real asshole. I guess his wife was a real sweetheart, and he was an asshole. And she met Tommy Lee Jones. He came in to buy some boots. Apparently he has a ranch in Colorado in the Rocky Mountains. Probably still does. And shit, I guess that's all I can think about that. My mom and dad were on an airplane somewhere, coming back from somewhere. I don't know if it was some sort of vacation or trip or whatever. And I believe his name is William H. Macy. He's the guy in the movie Collinwood. He's the guy with the baby towards the end where he's like, I think it would be best if we don't ever see each other again. And they end up giving, him all of their money, just like a couple $100. And this one girl was like, are you? And before she even said it, he's all, I am. So they saw that guy. I was at the airport one time. It was the family vacation to Hawaii, and I saw Shannon Sharp, who was a player on the Broncos back in the day. I remember we were at like the Express restaurant, like they have at airports and shit. And somebody came up and said, "Can I have your autograph?" And he said, "No." Just like real quick. Just, no. Didn't even like look at him or anything. So that's kind of rude, but yeah, man. I guess that's all I got to say. I saw a DJ at a rock station one time at a gas station. I happened to know who he was, and I knew he had a truck, and he was like wasn't shy about it. I mean, he would like invite people on the air, like, "Hey, I'm going to be working on my truck this weekend," and I don't remember if he would give out his address or what, but I think he still might be a DJ for that rock station. I'm not going to shout it out just because, just to be whatever, but he's been a DJ forever. And Katie Boo, you don't know who I'm talking about. Mrs. Butthead, if you're listening in, you might know who I'm talking about. He talks like this. Hey, thanks for calling your local rock station, rock and roll, man. Okay, that was really bad. That was dumb. That does nobody any good. But you may or may not say, Mrs. Butthead, if you're out there and you're obsessing over me, I don't know, how, if you were like born and raised in Colorado, if you, lived here. I remember I did look you up one time. Don't flatter yourself, or do. You lived in like, and again, like if I look myself up, it doesn't hardly show shit, which I guess is good, but you lived in like Nevada for a bit. I think you may have lived in California for a bit, but your friend, I don't know. I didn't look her up. I guess that's her real name. I'm not going to look her up now because I don't care. I only looked her up because, the stuff, and I was like, I got to do some shit here. And I kind of connected the dots, and I was like, oh, okay, and I wonder who owns that house. So those are apparently maybe the owners, so, oh boy, that looks like a shitty house. Is that the house in question? Because sometimes those old houses have character. That just looks like an old shitty house. There was like a bunch of bum-ass fucking rats sitting out in the front yard or some shit like that. You know how people do, drinking, smoking, just fucking chilling, having a good time, just hanging loose on the weekend. Maybe something's going on a little bit later. Maybe they have no plans whatsoever. Maybe they're trying to think of something. Maybe they're just hanging loose, waiting for something to develop. Is this person going to call? Is that, what are we going to do, Young people with time on their hands. Yeah. That's something an old person would say. Yeah. Look at these pieces of shit. Just fucking around. Oh, yeah. Anyway, whatever. No, that's all good. I'm just saying. I'm just being funny. Oh, look at these young, budding individuals with their whole lives in front of them. Woo! Did you own your own vagina waxing business at that time, Cleaver? Anyway, so blah, blah, blah. So yeah, radio DJ. I guess that's all I can think of. I don't know, yeah. One person, this lady thought that my dad was Robert Redford. And my mom thought that was funny. Because she was like this, what's the word? Eccentric, old broad. She's like, well, ain't that something? That's Robert Redford, honey, look. Shit. That's funny, in my opinion. So that's all I got to say. We still on for Christmas?